Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. Got a question for you. What is big and furry and green and wears a Phillies uniform and has an expandable tongue? Right, the Phillie Phanatic, the world's most famous sports mascot. But who was in the uniform? His name was Dave Raymond. It all began in the late 70s, and we're at Wilmington Country Club today. He's a native Delawarean to talk about the Phillie Phanatic, back when it began, and what has happened since. It's coming up next with Dave Raymond and the Phanatic on Inside Golf. The 26th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Valley Forge in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit valleyforge.org. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA section, the experts in the game and business of golf.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality, a chance to be part of a team, a career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
Hi, Tony Salucci with the Beacon Group of Companies. If your company has between 50 and 500 employees enrolled in your health insurance plan, there's a really good chance we can reduce your costs significantly and increase the benefits employees receive. How do we do it? We put you together with several thousand employers of a similar size across the country so your company can get amazing buying power. Schedule a conversation with one of our employee benefits specialists today at mybeacongroup.com.
And welcome back to Inside Golf. We are here at Wilmington Country Club on a beautiful day, talking to a guy that probably most of you wouldn't recognize, except if he was in costume. Dave Raymond is with us. David?
Hey, Harry, I smell better this way, too,
Well,
just so you know.
Maybe we'll get into that, maybe we won't. Dave Raymond, in case, I don't know where you've been for the last 50-some years, but Dave was the original Phillie Phanatic. I know he looks nothing like the Phanatic, but yeah, it goes back to the late 70s when it all began. And David, you're a native of Delaware. Dave's father, the legendary Hall of Fame football coach of the Blue Hens, Tubby Raymond, so that's why we're here down in Wilmington. In the background, we got golf, but we're talking a little bit of baseball with the original Phanatic. David, well, I don't know where to begin, except at the beginning, okay? Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, there was no plan. Trust me, I didn't go to clown college. I was, I grew up in Newark and being, my father's son, he was my hero. All I thought of, I didn't think about school. I didn't think about anything. I said, I got to, sitting in that locker room as a 7, 8-year-old and watching him after a game, giving a game ball away, seeing him motivate these, what I thought were these giant human beings. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to go and play for him. And I thought I was headed to being a coach. And when I was living my dream of playing for him, my sophomore year at Delaware, and he realizing this was my ambition, he said, look, I'm going to give you another perspective, because he'd been at Delaware for almost 50 years, and he was trying to get me to understand I couldn't replicate that, regardless of how successful I might be. And he said, might be a good coach, but let me help you get a job with the Phillies, because he knew the Carpenter family. And that started a 2-year internship in 76 and 77. Done with those 2 years, I had completely forgot about being a football coach. I could work for the Phillies.
Right.
I interned with Eddie Wade and Dave Buck. And you know, it was real to be able to think of having
Bill
a career.
Giles was, at the time, he didn't have ownership. He was working for the team in marketing,
Yeah,
right?
he ran, my boss was Frank Sullivan, who ran promotions, and Bill was his boss.
Right.
And you know, so in 1978, I thought I had to go back to school. I didn't have a summer job. Maybe I was going to go back to being a lifeguard. And Frank Sullivan called me and said, hey, we need you to go to New York and get fitted for the costume. If you do that, you can have your job back this summer. I went, and my dad was telling me early
How much
on.
before the season opener?
It was just a few
that?
months.
Really?
Because
so they had been coming up with this idea of trying to get a mascot. At the time, the San Diego Padres chicken was really the only sports mascot.
Yeah,
right?
and he was.
And he was a little off color, maybe, or
Well,
not,
yeah, my
not
God.
family oriented.
I mean, at that time, that ballpark was because of the military. The players used to say that San Diego's like a military base with a beach. so he could be rowdy and off color, and he wasn't sponsored by the Padres. He was sponsored by a radio station.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill got wind of this from some of our executives that traveled and said, hey, we really got to do this. And so they did all that work ahead of time, and then they needed somebody stupid enough, Harry, to say yes to this job.
Or somebody who needed a job
Yeah,
and said, I'll do whatever you want,
exactly.
and put on that furry green outfit with the Phillies shirt, and the rest is history. I love it. If you Google Phillie Phanatic, part of the description is an extendable tongue. I guess that's what it is. But you created the Phanatic. You created all the routines and whatever that you did. I mean, did they give you carte blanche to do that?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Harry. I think everything goes, I believe, to the brilliant leadership of Bill Giles, because many of his best ideas were failures. Kite Man, go look up Kite Man, go Google Kite Man, and it was supposed to happen the way he envisioned it, and it didn't, and it continued to fail each time he brought it back until finally it worked. The Kite Man actually got to
Down the ramp,
flew in, delivered the ball, and they booed him because they were looking for another crash. Right. So he told me when I was nervous, because I didn't see the costume or try it on until the morning of April 25th, which is I went out that
1978.
evening. Yeah, and my direction up to that point was just show up, just go. And so I went to Bill's office that day and I said, I have no idea. I mean, the costume fits me really well because I got measured for it. And it surpassed all my expectations about it. It actually looked like a Muppet. And I said, that's all good, but what do you want me to do? And Bill saw this confusion or maybe a little fear on my face. And he said, just go out and have a good time. And that released all of my fear. I was a college student. I understood how to have fun. And then I go running out of his offices, and I'm just about breaching the doorway. He yells at me, G-rated fun. So,
right. It was all family oriented.
Yeah, and he said, we don't, and he had said earlier when the chicken was brought up, we don't want you to be the chicken. Go out and make this is family atmosphere. And so I that's what I did, and I think that direction released any of my fear. I couldn't fail, and if I failed, it ended up being funny because the first few moments of being in the costume, because I hadn't had much practice, I actually tripped and fell. And when I tripped and fell, all the fans went, oh!
So that's part of the routine.
Yeah, I said, okay, I got to fall down more.
Right.
And that, over the next couple of months, that's what we did. Bill would say, hey, why don't you go try this? And I would say, hey, I think I want to do this. And everything was yes. In improv, they say yes and.
There was no model.
No.
You guys created the model.
And they didn't announce, hey, we're going to create a mascot for you. I just showed up. People thought some giant Phillies fan in his garage sewed this together, and they, as a Phillies fan, they liked that concept, that idea that this is us doing it. It's not, it's not the man. It's not a marketing gimmick. And they absorbed what the Phanatic did because I was a Phillies fan, and I could, through my performance, I was just doing what any Phillies fan would do if they had the opportunity to get on the field, if they had an opportunity to come up along a Mets fan. But I did it in a softer, kinder way. So I would steal a Mets fan hat, I'd whirly-bird onto the field, but I would eventually get that hat back to them. But I would have sneezed on it, I would have rubbed it on somebody's head, I would have thrown it up in the air, put a little popcorn in it, got him the hat back, and everybody would cheer. Okay, now you're a Mets fan in our area. We gave you our special welcome.
Did you guys do a post-mortem, for want of a better term, after every game almost?
We did.
To say this works, this doesn't?
Yeah, we did. That's how we came up with the backstory of him being a flightless bird from the Galapagos Islands, because I kept being asked, what are you? And I would point to the Phanatic's name. They said, no, we know you're the Phanatic, but what are you? And in one of these post-mortems, because it really felt like that sometimes, I I said, I don't know who I am. I feel like I look like a Darwin experiment gone bad. And another intern, who I wish I remembered who this was because he was no longer with us. He goes, that's right, you're from the Galapagos Islands. Darwin did an experiment. You know, your species.
So that's where that all came from, the origin.
And that story in and of itself is worth millions of dollars of revenue because the story led him to Philadelphia. He was looking for acceptance. You know, he finds the city of brotherly love, and then, you know, we wink, wink, and nudge, nudge, because that was a way of us poking fun at the media's constant focus on us being bad fans, when truly we're knowledgeable and
it's
they loved it.
1978, which was really the start of a great period of baseball for the Phillies and their fans at Veterans Stadium. By the way, April 25th, 1978, first game for the Phanatic, first game at home that season for the Phillies, and they beat the Cubs, look it up, 7-0, and the winning pitcher, he's in the Hall of Fame, Jim Kitty Cott. How about that?
It was awesome to see him and we see him before other times during Alumni Weekend. He's an amazing guy,
Yeah,
and
sure
he's
is.
become a good friend of mine, and love being around him.
Not as famous as the Phillie Phanatic, but pretty close.
I think if we put Kitty Cott in that costume, he probably could have done just as good of a job. I mean,
He could have still won a Gold Glove award
yeah,
for pitchers.
right. He could have. He was
All right,
amazing.
Dave, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about not just the routines that he created, but also maybe some friends and some enemies he may have created as well as the Phillie Phanatic. With Dave Raymond at beautiful Wilmington Country Club here on Inside Golf.
The Golf Association of Philadelphia. Founded in 1897, GAP is the nation's oldest regional or state golf association. We serve amateur golf in Eastern PA, Southern New Jersey, and all of Delaware. GAP welcomes all golfers, junior or senior, male or female, public or private. Join the Golf Association of Philadelphia today. Our mission is always to preserve, protect, and promote the great game of golf. Before you tee it up, look us up. Visit gapgolf.org to find out more.
Parking is free!
Hey! $4! Yes!
With so many affordable things to do in Montgomery County, PA, go ahead. Free out.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues from Wilmington Country Club with Delaware native and the first Phillie Phanatic, Dave Raymond. Out of uniform a little bit today, but hey, we're at a golf course. By the way, did the Phanatic ever play golf? That you know of?
Absolutely. We used him a lot here in the leukemia tournament. I was instructed by, among others, Arnold Palmer, showing me that I brought a metal wood in that
He put on an exhibition
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
right?
it was right at Old Hercules Country Club, and it was when metal woods were brand new, and I came out with a metal wood, and Arnold took it, looked at it, and threw it down the fairway and handed me a persimmon wood.
How about that? Yeah, here, try this,
Yeah.
Phanatic. All right, I teased at the end of the last segment about some of the friends and the enemies that maybe the Phanatic made over the course of time. And the most notable, I guess, everybody, I don't know how many views it has on YouTube, is you and Tommy Lasorda getting into it one day when the Dodgers were in town.
Yeah, and it was frenemies. That's what I liked. It's
Frenemies.
in today's lingo, it would be frenemies, because even Tommy Lasorda, every time I saw him out of costume, he'd ask me how my dad was doing.
Okay.
But Johnny Marks, one of our broadcasters here in Philadelphia, when he was hearing the story from me, he said, "Oh, so Tommy was okay with it until he wasn't." He enjoyed getting.
So he was a showman as much as anybody.
He saw the value of that, being able to allow him to do that showmanship to entertain his players, because the players loved it when he got angry. Not at them, but at somebody else.
And you got a uniform, and is it okay to say who you got it from?
Yes, I was on his
He was a
podcast.
Dodger player?
Yeah, it's Steve Sachs.
How about
It
that?
was like a scene from The Shining. He'd stick his face in my door and he goes, "Here's his jersey. If you ever tell him, I'll kill you."
And Tommy never officially knew, but he suspected
No, I don't
Sachs,
think.
right?
I think Steve and I kind of kept it on the lowdown.
So you stuffed it with pillows or whatever to look as much as possible like Tommy. And then you had the ATV vehicle, and he came running out of the dugout, and he takes it away from you, slams it on the turf, slams you on the turf, right?
It was the first time in my career that I almost
Down
lost my head.
goes the Phanatic.
And their broadcasters do a wonderful job, because when you watch it on YouTube, it's their broadcasters, and they start.
Was it Vin Scully?
No, it wasn't Vince, and it was a former pitcher, and I'm forgetting his
Maybe
name.
Drysdale or
yeah, it might have been
somebody?
Drysdale. And he said Tommy's never moved so fast in his life. And I'm
about
like,
that?
it was just that really was the icing
So
on the cake.
Tommy's on the list. Who else is on that
Well,
list?
Dave Parker used to come when I was friendly with the Pirates. They always, Manny Sanguillen was the first player
I love Manny.
to work with me. And he came to me and said, I'll do whatever you want, but whatever we do, I'm going to end up smacking you. Because I love it, and he used some fond language. He said, I love it when they boo me. So if you can do that for me. So he would do that, look really mean, everybody boo him, and he'd sit back in the dugout and no one could see me, and he'd look at me and go, I go, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, there was big chiclets in that smile.
Yeah, he was really a wonderful guy, but he wanted the Phillies fans to hate him. Deion Sanders, I did the same routine that I did with the dummy in front of Deion Sanders. He sat in the dugout, did not smile, didn't even look at me, and I had a purple fedora and what he would call his Jew-ray on, and I did the whole dance, and I thought, oh well, he didn't like it, but the players were laughing. The next day, I get a knock on my door. It's Deion, and I went, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sanders. He goes, no, I got a bunch of family members coming in today. Could you do that again?
Oh, really?
So I do it again. There he is in the dugout, not looking at me, looking angry and mad. He comes back later. I met him a number of years later. He said, you did such a great job. I love that. I just couldn't make it look like I was enjoying it because it wasn't part of my brand. And, so these guys are all.
He had to be prime.
Yeah, he had to be
right?
prime
The
time.
Phanatic,
Prime time.
Did the league, Major League Baseball, ever get to Bill Giles and say, hey, you got to tell your Phanatic guy to cool off a little bit?
Absolutely, but what happened was because the chicken got involved in a dust-up with Pinella, they said no mascots are allowed on the field. Well, Bill actually got the lobby for it and say, well, we've always done the Phanatic on the field in the fifth inning, so we got grandfathered in by Major League Baseball and said, okay, because the fans expect that. And Major League Baseball has been really good with the Phanatic and other things that provide goodwill, and that the Phanatic has always been giving goodwill. We don't do anything mean. We're not anything but G-rated.
Still family rated.
Yeah.
And how about when you get up on the dugout? When did you decide to do that? Early on in the career? And you'd do the thing
whammy.
the whammy at the pitcher and all that?
Yeah, it was just finding a place where I could perform and allow everybody to see the Phanatic without being distracted by being in the stands and around the crowd. And there were a number of places, but the dugouts were the best. And the whammy came from one of my best friends of the Delaware football team, Bobby Huff. Lost his life to cancer, unfortunately, but he used to always do that. He was a big Raiders fan, and so when they were playing the Eagles,
wow.
he'd go fungi bazin. So everything that a comic does, there's some authentic structure from it. And I just love Bobby Huff, and he was funny, and we used that all the time, and now it's still there.
Even umpires got involved with you.
Eric Gregg.
Eric Gregg was probably the most prominent one. Philadelphia native. You guys had a little stick on there.
Well, he says, and again, God rest his soul, we've lost so many great people. He said, I made you everything that you are. He goes, look at me. I'm shaped like you. I can dance better than you. And we had a wonderful relationship. I've stayed close to his sons and his family over the years. And he was the first umpire with a personality. And he had to tone a little bit down until I met Doug Harvey.
Oh, wow.
And Doug Harvey was the man. And he brought me into the his clubhouse, and said, I really like you, kid. I hate that chicken because he makes fun of us as umpires. You have fun with us as an authority figure.
How about
and
that?
As long as you do that and you're able to stop, even if we plan something and something happens and we go like this and you stop, then we'll work with you. And I never broke that code. And he told all the other umpires, you get in Philadelphia, have fun with the Phanatic.
We have just under a minute left in this segment. You never spoke while you were doing it, to fans, to anybody, or did you?
I did. I would speak to the players, because I always felt like I needed to talk to them. So if I didn't get a chance to talk to them, and a lot of visiting players, before the game started, I would come up, high-five them, and I'd hug them, and I said, hey, follow along with me. Just play with me. And they would do it. And then it got to be such a fond thing for them to do. They would come in from out of town on a 3-game segment, and they say, hey, look, first game, we want to do this. And then they'd tell me something that a player did the night before. He said, when they get introduced, do this. Oh. No one will know what it is. And there's the player, I'm doing that, and he's looking around like, how did he know that? So the players became my biggest influence for these skits and jokes and routines because they enjoyed coming and doing it. That's the thing I'm the most fond of, is those relationships.
So it's amazing. So you realized you couldn't have the same routine every night. You did your best in terms of prep work to find out, okay, what did these guys do last night or last week that I can do and add it to my routine? We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the show with the Phanatic, the original Phanatic, Dave Raymond. We're going to find out what he's up to now. There he goes, here at Wilmington
It never
Country
ends.
Club.
It never ends.
The Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board kicked off its fall Freedom from Hunger food drive at Cecil and Grace Bean's Soup Kitchen in Norristown with help from Montgomery County Community College's Hospitality Institute and culinary students, Commissioner Ken Lawrence, and Philadelphia Eagles cornerback Darius Slay.
I love to get out in the community. I do a lot for my community back at home as well. And, you know, with Phillie being here for 4 or 5 years by now, I think it's cute for me to help the community in Phillie also.
So what does this mean on behalf of MON to have this food drive happen every year and to be here for this event?
I think this event is incredibly important. It not only raises money to feed people across Montgomery County, but it also just builds awareness that this is an issue that really affects all of our neighbors and all of our residents in our community.
Talk about the need in Monco, because there still is a pretty great need there.
Yeah, we saw the need obviously during the pandemic, but even with the pandemic subsiding and inflation subsiding a little bit, 70% of our pantries have seen increases in 2023.
And how many households and individuals do you serve every year?
We serve over 60,000 individuals across Montgomery County through our network of over 60 free meal providers. We're just really grateful for Valley Forge Convention Tourism Bureau for hosting this. We're grateful for Commissioner Ken Lawrence and Darius Slay to come out here and really just help build awareness for hunger in Montgomery County.
I think it's wonderful that our tourism board does this each and every year. The need is great. This raises a lot of awareness. And so I'm happy to participate. I'm happy to help raise awareness. And I'm just grateful that we have community organizations that step forward to help. Once again, our tourism board is the best in the state, and the community service they're performing here goes above and beyond, but it's part of what makes Montgomery County such a special place to live and work.
Well, it's the best day of the year for me and our team. Nothing gets better than this, to be here and help people, especially with food. Our commitment to Montgomery County has been to feed everybody as much as we can, especially during the holidays. So it's an amazing day for me. Very humble.
What's your message to other community members, leaders, business owners, and getting them involved and help supporting them?
Please help. We need everyone's help. We need cash donations, help to buy pounds and pounds of food. And we all know right now, food is very expensive. So anyone out there, whether it's 50 cents, $1, if it's $20, whatever, we need it. This is a problem throughout our whole country, and it's going to be tough this year. So please, we're asking for everyone's help for such a great cause.
The goal is to get to 60,000 pounds for this fall for a lifetime of 224,000 pounds. But we've got a long way to go, and we need your help. Together, we can slay hunger. For the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board, I'm Rachel Riley.
Back here at Wilmington Country Club, and we're just wrapping things up with Dave Raymond, the original Phillie Phanatic. What year did you end? You started in '78.
In '93, when Joe Carter ripped all our hearts out, I decided it was.
But you were there for '80, right? Did
Yeah,
you go
80,
on the road? Did
80,
you go to Kansas
yes,
City?
Yeah, '80, '83, and '93. I traveled for all of those.
How did that work out with opposing fans and everything?
It was wonderful, because when I went to Houston first during the National League Championship Series, I had an agreement. I'll work pregame, and they said, okay, you can work pregame, but we're going to send 2 Houston police officers out to arrest you when you're done.
The Astrodome was brutal,
Oh,
wasn't
and
it?
it was
the noisiest
yeah.
place I've ever. That rally when they came back
Yep.
and beat Nolan Ryan, I was there for that whole thing.
I was sitting on the bench because they didn't have seats for me, so they dressed me up as a ball boy. It was the greatest moment of my life to watch all that.
1980. What are you up to today?
Well, I think that, you know, leaving the Phillies, some people said, well, you were crazy. It was the best move for me. I became an entrepreneur, and I've been involved a lot in corporate culture, employee retention, and those things. And I go out and speak to big groups, you know, from the FBI to Uber Sooner, AstraZeneca, and all they want me to do is come in, and especially now in today's world, to talk about their people as human beings, give them something that will help them with their well-being and sustainable happiness. And I've studied positive psychology. I took a course that they have at Yale on positive psychology, and all of the things that I did as the Phanatic, the underlying heart is that, you know, gratitude and kindness is a great way for you to practice daily to feel better and to even overcome the biggest challenges. And I had the loss of my mother to cancer, a marriage that fell apart, and the Phanatic truly saved me doing that work. And that's when I started realizing something important is going on. And I believe that all of that work has put me today to talk to people about, you know, making communities better, connecting with people, you know, saving some lives. I mean, this suicide epidemic and the loneliness epidemic that we're going through, in part because of the pandemic, can be solved with some work that all of us can do daily. And that's what I do, and it's all because of the big green guy.
Let me just say this. The big green guy probably has put more smiles on the faces of sports fans, not just Philly fans, than anything or body else. And that's a credit to you.
Thank you, appreciate it, Harry. I love spending time with you. And in a beautiful place, right?
That's right.
Couldn't be better.
Wilmington Country Club. Dave Raymond, AKA the Phillie Phanatic. What a legacy. Thanks, David. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on Inside Golf.
The 26th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Valley Forge in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit valleyforge.org. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA Section, the experts in the game and business of golf.